Dobro večer, poštovani dragi gledatelji. Moj večerašnji gost dolazi iz Turske i sad ćemo odmah nešto naučiti. Ne kaže se, dakle, Erdogan, nego Erdogan. Ovoga se ne čita, pa tako je moj večerašnji gost Oğuz Aydemir. Dobro večer, dobrodošli.
Dobro večer. Good evening.
Učim našeg gledatelja da se ovo G ne čita. Vi imate također G u vašem imenu, ali dobar, dakle, trenutak da naučimo nešto kako izgovarati pravilno ime predsjednika Turske. Hvala vam na vašem vremenu. Znam da ste i prezauzeti. Moj večerašnji gost je filantrop poneprije, stoga mi je i zanimljiv, a on je poslovni čovjek koji je do te mjere razvio svoj posao i zaradio da je u 50. odlučio jednostavno prepustiti svoje poslove sinovima i baviti se filantropskim radom. Ja vam prvo čestitam na tome. Znate, u Hrvatskoj, iako postoje Rotary klubova, Lionsa, postoje naravno karitativnih organizacija, postoje Caritas i sve ostale organizacije koje su vezane uz crkvu, ali hoću kazati, ne manjka dobre volje i dobrote i solidarnosti, no filantropija kao kategorija je ovdje manje poznata, barem u ovim desetljećima, pa ćemo podosta vremena govoriti o tome. Ali krenimo onome o čemu moramo i mislim da je vama kao neko ko dolazi porijeklom iz Turske, a hrvatski je zet, svakako na pameti svakoga dana ovaj potres i ova tragedija. S tim u vezi da ne počnemo trivialno ili samo zato da to pitamo. Kad sam s vama razgovarao, kazali ste mi da se malo zapravo zna o specifičnostima toga potresa. Pričali ste mi o tih 400 km linije i čak ste izrazili bojazan da bi se možda, ne daj Bože, stvar mogla proširiti na Istanbul, a onda, dobro, nećemo onda ni zamišljati situaciju. U čemu je ta specifičnost?
Good evening. Thank you for giving this opportunity to me, first of all. I'm very honored.
Zadovoljstvo je moje.
Privileged, thank you. The earthquake issue is not something new for Turkey. I mean, we have had many earthquakes in the past, and it just is simply going on, and it will continue on. There are two major earthquake zones. One goes from north, one goes from middle Anatolia, more south. And this one was a real big one compared with the previous ones. You can compare that with the one in Haiti, for example. And now the death toll as of today is almost 50,000. It's 46,000, but it's still continuing on. And this is a great thing. When you are far distance, just hearing the earthquake and things like that, it doesn't make sense. You have to be really there to see how big thing this is, because as I told you earlier, I mean, this is a 400-kilometer crack. And this crack, generally, compared with the other earthquakes, they are coming from 20 or 30 kilometers from deep. This was from 7 kilometers deep, which is, I mean, you can understand the strength of this. And imagine, already 3.5 million people left their homes and immigrated to other places of Anatolia. This is a population of whole Croatia. So, I mean, it's a very big issue. It's a very big disaster. And in terms of looking what it was, it started with 7.5, and immediately right after a second one hit 7.8 Richter scale. And all the cities, villages are affected. I mean, there are 11 of major cities on that line. And it started with Kahramanmaraş. And I think the total number of the population which got affected is 13.5 million people. So when you look what has happened, actually, you come to the final result that actually earthquakes don't kill people. Poor buildings do kill people. I mean, that's what has happened, because when you look at the site, you see a very strong building still there, and you see many others almost ungrounded. So this is a fact which we have to learn. Japanese learned it. They are doing it. They are having earthquakes very frequently, more than we do. And I think necessary precautions has to be taken into account, and this has to be really solved. Affected area is about 110,000 kilometers squares, and including the Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. When you total this, it's about 1.2 square kilometers. It's a million. It's a very huge area which is affected, and what's happening is that Africa is coming from south to north. It's moving the Middle East. Anatolia is going affected, going west. That's what's happening through the centuries. It's not something very new. It's going to repeat again. And the biggest threat is that we know there is also a very important crack in the Marmara Sea next to Istanbul. And this is being expected any moment. And that would be a real disaster because from the point of checking all these buildings which are not safe, it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. They have started some programs already in Istanbul, but I wonder whether this earthquake will be tomorrow or this minute or in a couple of years. We don't know that. You never know that. But it's going to happen. We know only the reality that it's going to happen. So it's, I mean, a sad situation. We as company, for example, in Turkey, from the second day on, started sending a lot of food. I mean, major items needed in the
No sam
zone.
htio pitati, kako se nosite, ovo je zaista nevjerojatan prizor, to je sve srušeno, gomila betona, šute, nažalost i ljudi po tim ruševinama. Kako je sada u ovom trenutku, ipak s ove distance, Turska organizirana u raščišćavanju svih tih ruševina na tom dugom potezu, kažete 400 km, i kako se nosite sa posljedicama potresa?
Well, I think when you talk about, for example, an earthquake in Croatia, it is in one point, Sisak or Petrinja, okay? But this is, imagine it happens in 11 major cities and towns. So nobody was actually prepared for this kind of thing. There were many countries who wanted to help, but what they're doing is now trying to clear the mess, and just still, as of today, there is a shortage of water. You have to provide water. There is a shortage of toilets, and there's a shortage of food, and this is being sent. And now it is under a little bit more organized than from the very beginning. It was a shock at the beginning. Nobody knew what exactly to do.
Ljude se premješta u hotele, koliko smo čuli. Ljudi se ipak zbrinjavaju. Tako da je barem Turska je podosta, inače zato je pitan kako se sad organizirani s ove distance, jer ipak Turska dosta organizirana zemlja i odmah se reagira u tom preseljavanju.
Yeah. Not only the government is doing that, but also there are lots of non-profit organizations who are helping the people for that. And this is somewhat distributed between people. But it's still today is just 1 month that it happened on. It happened on 6. It's the anniversary of the 1 month. And still everything is not under control. It takes a long time because we're talking about thousands of people. I mean, 13.5 million people got affected. And we lost already 50,000 people. And God knows how many more people will be coming out of this wreck. So it's going to take long time to recover the situation. Regardless how well you are organized, this is a huge, huge, huge place.
Ja se sjećam da je Turska ponudila odmah svoje iskustvo i naravno tehniku i sve ostalo odmah nakon potresa koje je zahvatio Petrinj, Sisak i naše, dakle, ove krajeve. Sjećate li se, je li bilo što god od te pomoći, budući da ste vi involvirani i u poslovne sve ove procese u Hrvatskoj?
I was not part of it at all, but I know the whole story. They were so quick to forward these homes, ready-made homes. And that was a very good gesture from Turkey, I remember. And that was very fast. The good thing was that it was fast, but it was an easy case compared with this kind of a case. I mean, it was in one point. Okay, people affected were not as many as what we got affected. So this is something I think no country can really handle it wisely. It's a huge area, 400 kilometers. Imagine the villages and the towns and the cities. And it's not an easy organization. It's armed forces is over there. Everybody from the first moment on wanted to help. But it was not easy because major roads were also out of control. They were ruined by the earthquake. Airports were not in use, unfortunately. So how do you forward your aid if you want to really aid? It was a very difficult situation for anybody to handle that issue.
Kada slušam ovako, da, nije to nimalo jednostavno. Krenuo sam sa vašim predstavljanjem i možda bi bilo najbolje, dok dođemo do ovog filantrop, da sami kažete nešto o svojim tvrtkama, jer jedna specifičnost je s tim tvrtkama, s tom osnovnom tvrtkom i vašim poslima bočnim, dakle, posrijedi, a to je da je to na neki način, vi to volite kazati, podmornica. Vi niste, pa čak i u Turskoj toliko poznati, imate zapravo u tom core biznisu, a radi se o preradi voća, imate zapravo najveću tvrtku. Radili ste, kažem, do 50. i onda ste odjednom kazali sam sebi i svojim bližnjima, porodici, evo, tu je biznis, ja ću biti tu tamo prisutan, ne znam koliko ste mjesečno prisutni, nije ni važno, ali posvetili ste se filantropiji. No, budući da se javljaju i krive informacije o tom biznisu i procjene koliko je veliko, 27 milijardi, ovoliko milijardi, ovoliko, pa čak imena. Dajte nam kažite kako je to krenulo, o čemu je riječ i ukratko kako je to izgledalo od trenutka kad ste počeli pa do 50. To nije dugo vrijeme. Dok ste pozavršavali fakulteta, završavali ste ih na 2-3 mjesta, izuzetno ste obrazovan čovjek. Dakle, kad ste počeli raditi zapravo, s koliko, 20 i koliko godina?
Yeah, my business life starts when I was 18, the year when I graduated from high school. That's an American high school in Tarsus, which is St. Paul. I mean, everybody knows Tarsus as St. Paul. And that summer, I started working for a bank, and it was Import Cambio. And I learned a lot, and I saw many young guys working for the bank, and I thought to myself, if I'm not going to be successful enough in university and afterwards, life will be very tough, seeing others.
Moram vas prekinuti jednim pod pitanjem. Znate, u raznim zemljama ljudi imaju razne navike. Kod nas je ovdje navika da ako se baš ne mora u krajnjoj nuždi, ljudi studiraju i studiraju. Kako to da ste počeli tako mlad raditi sa 18?
Yeah, because during those years, I'm talking about 1970s, we had a lot of strikes, and during the day it was almost impossible to go to the university. There was always the left and the right students fighting with each other, killing each other, and there was martial law most of the time. And I decided to study at night. I was a night student, night university student. And during the day I was working in very different, various places. So the life was very difficult those years, but it was worth it. And then when I was graduated from the university, for my postgraduate study, I went to Amsterdam University for European integration. That was a course for, that was EEC at that time. It was not European Union, European Economic Community. And remember, Turkey made an application for, it was Yugoslavia at that time still, but we made an application for full membership back in 1963, so we are still waiting. And that was a time when it was a possibility for Turkey to become full members together with Greece, because Greece was right after the military invasion. So Turkey and Greece were both going to go into EEC, or both will be left out. Then our very smart Prime Minister at that time, Mr. Ecevit, said, well, this is a common threat. This is nothing to do with common market, so let's forget about it. So Greece was admitted and Turkey was out. And so I had to search for other ways and means, and then I started really working hard. And then I got this opportunity to work with the Germans. The first thing was in packaging. And I didn't have any capital at all, but they wanted me to have certain percentage of the company, and they made me the general manager and the shareholder. And they just simply wanted to avoid the problems which may come to Germany. It has to be sold locally. That was a beginning point, and then it was a big success story in 10 years. And then after the 10 years, I just simply didn't want to continue because I started losing my health. The company was perfect. I was working day and night, no Saturdays, no Sundays, no kids, no nothing. Big success.
Šta je počelo otkazivati? Tlak? Što?
Yeah, it started with blood pressure, as you can imagine. And I was
Imam
smoking.
iskustva.
Yeah.
Pušili ste.
And then I said, yeah, I'm smoking, and I was not caring about my private, because there was no private life. I was sleeping in the factory.
Ne morate mi opisivati, sve znam. Ste prestali pušiti tada?
Yes, a long time ago. So I'm advising also to you to lose the kilograms. That's a big threat.
Morat ću ponovo početi pušiti da bi... Vratimo se. I?
And then I said, well, it's not really worth continuing on this business. It's already big success, not in terms of Turkey, but in the eyes of the Germans also. It was an outstanding performance. It can be a case study in the universities to study, to look at how we started and where we reached. And I said, I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do any serious work because I'm going to die in the end, for the sake of the company. And then afterwards, I always wanted my sons to be better than me. Me speaking only one language or two roughly. I wanted them to speak more languages and to have the best education possible. And in the end, they were very well educated, better than I have expected. And it was time to give the flag to them so that they can continue early. Because I have had this opportunity during my university years also to work for the Istanbul Chamber of Industry. On a weekly basis, because I was speaking English, they put me in a department where it was needed. And there was this export community, a group of industries who are exporting. I'm talking about 1972, when Turkey was for the first time making an export of $1 billion. Okay, this is today, you do it in one day, $1 billion per day. That was the time. And I saw these exporters of industry guys. All were very, very old. And I was amazed, how come there is not even one young guy? And I said, if somehow I also succeed to become a good businessman like them and exports, I'm going to definitely not be looking like them. Because one was coming with a thing and, one was coming with a carriage. And I said, this is awful, So that was a very big remembrance of mine. And I said, you see a lot of businessmen, they don't have any hobbies, any interests out of their business. Their hobby is their business. And until to the last moment, they hold the company.
A to je sad prelomni moment. Ipak ste vi prestali u 50-oj. Niste prestali posao, ali ste odlučili u 50-oj se posvetiti filantropiji. Otkud taj impuls i što je to za vas značilo?
Yes. Yes.
Posjećamo o svemu čim se bavite, ima toga jako puno.
Yes, because the whole thing started as follows. I was a perfectionist in the company. I mean, the company, we were in packaging, but I tell you, it was cleaner than my home or anywhere, even a hospital. I was perfectionist.
Čuo sam, ne morate mi reći, čuo sam da su se Njemci interesirali kako je to. Ako su se Njemci interesirali kako je pedantno, onda mora da je čisto pedantno.
What was implemented within the company to do everything in a perfect way was this total quality management. It is a management where you do your plans and you perform and you audit what you're doing, and then you search for a possibility of how this can be continuous and what is not very productive and how to make it productive. It's a big thing, TQM, total quality management. And within the context of total quality management, there is supposedly to be some part of it where you have to do something for the society. Something as a social responsibility. It's a must. If you want to be a total quality management address, a perfect example for it, you have to do something for the social responsibility as well. So it was a must, not because I just wanted to do it. And then that was also very successful. And then I started getting enjoyment in the sense that the employees and all who were working for the company was being part of it. It was not my initiative only, but it was teamwork which was being performed. And it's for the community. It has nothing to do with our families or something. It is really for the need of community. Making some classrooms, a lot of examples took place. And people were really enjoying, and they were telling that we are a very different company than all the others. I mean, people are looking with great admiration to us. So it became a way of life. And I continued that after quitting my job, and I was already involved in many of the foundations. And so I continued that, and I'm still continuing. And that's it.
Ići ćemo sad, imamo tu i neke knjige, pokazati ću, jer vi ste silno angažirani, naravno, i u Hrvatskoj. Rekao sam da je vaša gospođa supruga Hrvatica, pa ste angažirani na zbližavanju Hrvatske i Turske kroz ukazivanje na tu zajedničku prošlost. Imam recimo, evo, jedno pitanje koje će zorno pokazati što to znači. Ja bih se okladio da 95% Hrvata nema pojma o 8 km dugom mostu, velikom Meostičkom mostu Sulejmana Veličanstvenog. Ako griješim, moj greh, moj preveliki greh, ali siguran sam da ne griješim. Pa kako to? Evo, možemo kroz taj primjer, da u Hrvatskoj, da kad ste došli, vjerojatno ste se i sami susreli sa time da imamo veliku zajedničku kulturnu prošlost, kroz poeziju, arhitekturu, da ne nabrajam, ali se o tome malo govori.
Well, I was one day invited to the Turkish embassy. And there was a group of professors from HAZU, High Academy of Arts and Sciences. And the ambassador invited me next to him. I know why I was there. I know that something waiting for me for sponsoring, okay? And then there was this group of gentlemen, professors, 7 or 8 of them, who prepared different aspects of the Osijek Bridge. And it was a very good, actually, presentation that they did, but I understood I didn't want to stay for that meeting for very long. And I asked from Mr. Ambassador, may I have the opportunity to talk? And he said, yes, please. And then I asked the professors, do you have a PDF of your studies? Apparently, different aspects of the Osijek Bridge are now gathered here. And they said, yes, but why? And I said, give me the PDF. In 2 weeks, I will give you 2 books of sample. I will bring them from Turkey. And if you say, okay, then I will print 1,000 books and bring with diplomatic courier to Croatia. And that's it. There was a big silence, and that's how it started. The brown book is that one. Osijek Bridge.
Osijek Bridge. Ali koju god dignem, htio sam uzeti ovu, budem ja ovo pokazao, prvo zelenu. Evo, dakle, to je
Yes.
To je ta
Veliki
knjiga
Osječki most.
o
Yeah.
velikom Osječkom mostu.
Right.
Ali ono što sam htio pokazati, evo sad ću da ne zna ni kamermana maknuti tu knjigu i postaviti drugu, to je ono oko čega vi nastojite i sam naslov, dakle, govori što je to. To su, dakle, tragovi osmanske kulture u Hrvatskoj i naša zajednička kultura i populina. Pa sad, prvo, prije nego što krenemo, imam ja jednu veliku želju. U tisku, kad se čovjek priprema i čita sve o vama, a ja uvijek pokušavam pročitati sve o svom gostu zadnjih par godina, da nešto ne propustim, se javlja jedan kontradiktorni podatak o posljednjoj želji Kemala Paše Ataturka. Za njega naravno svako u Hrvatskoj zna. I sad je to zanimljivo što je ta želja. Govori se zapravo sasvim krivo o kartama, piri rejsa i tako dalje, ali ispravite nas pa da znaju i naši novinari u buduće kad budu s vama radili intervjue.
Yeah.
O čemu je riječ?
Yeah, thank you. When it was the time of the Ottoman Empire, the last years of the Ottoman Empire, Atatürk, his name was not Atatürk yet. I am talking about the early 1920s, okay? So he was going into Anatolia and they stopped his train because he wanted to organize everything against the invading sources. I mean, Greeks were already on Western Anatolia. And they stopped the train and they said, well, we will make your monument. We are after you. We are definitely sure that you're going to succeed this war. And he said, forget about me. There is one guy who is lately passed away, and that's Yahya Kaptan, who in the district close to Istanbul was fighting against the English, and he was killed. So if you're going to do a monument of anybody, it's not going to be mine, but Yahya Kaptan. So at the place, I mean, nobody cared about his will. I read it in some document, and it was very close to my factory. So I said, this is something which we should do, you know, I mean, it's his will. So wherever he was killed, I put a very big monument, and it was a big, I mean, attention.
Otkud vam ta navada? Ja sam studirao pak sve krivo, znate, kao da sam u 18. i 19. stoljeću i filozofiju, i povijest umjetnosti i teologiju i sve ove, nešto malo, sve ove nepraktične stvari, za razliku od vas koji ste pametno praktično studirali, ali ste se onda počeli baviti tim društvenim, duhovnim i tako dalje stvarima. Otkud vam ta navika da se bavite nekim lateralnim, bočnim stvarima koje svima izbjegavaju? Recimo, moram sad opet polako postaviti ovu knjigu. Evo, mi Hrvati jako smo ponosni na Ruđera Boškovića. Doduše, malo Hrvata opet zna da je Ruđer Bošković više putovao nego prosječan Hrvat i to najmanje 10 puta više po cijeloj Europi, a došao je i do Porte, došao i do, dakle, ovoga Turske. I vama nije promaklo da Ruđer Bošković ima nekakve veze sa Trojom. E sad, ovako, postoji uvijek ovi amateri, arheolozi i tako dalje, ali to je nešto što ste vi prezentirali unutar znanstvene zajednice. Kako je to promaklo svim istraživačima? Ja sam studirao i povijest umjetnosti i naprosto mi je nevjerojatno da bi došli na neko, dakle, išta znao o Troji, a kamoli naš jenac Ruđer Bošković. Kako vam je to palo u oči?
It was the year of Troy back in 2013, I guess, and so we have these cultural centers, Yunus Emre, all over the world, and they were celebrating Troy, the year of Troy, and so there were lots of lecturers coming from Turkey and giving lectures, and I was listening to some of them, and then I have a library of 18,000 books. I'm a real reader, and these classes are just because of those. I mean, I read a lot, and I just happened to see Ruđer Bošković writing about Troy in Italian. And I said, how come? I mean, as far as I know, he is Croatian. Why did he write in Italian, this report? At that time, he was, for some reasons, living in Italy, maybe to avoid himself to be in Croatia. And then I didn't understand, of course, nothing to do with Italian. I searched whether anybody knows in this part of the world, because we are living in Croatia, whether any of this thing is translated or not. It was not. So it was almost the end of the year of and it was 2018. And then immediately I asked for translation from Italian to Croatian, to English, and to Turkish. Immediately. They did it in 2 weeks because this is not a very big report. And this is all about the story of he was with astrology and he wanted to see Neptune and Pluto. The best place to see it is in Constantinople. So he was leaving from Dubrovnik, coming all the way from the Dardanelles. But then he was late.
Ali kakva je veza, oprostite, da vas pitam najizravnije, budući nisam imao prigodu ništa o tome čitati. Vi dakle, ne da pretpostavljate, postoji zaista...
This is the story which I am telling you, is the story.
Dobro, izvolite.
So then they said, well, look, this is Troy. Would you like to be interested? We are already late going to Istanbul, Constantinople. And he said, yes, that's interesting. So they took him to the land and he wandered around and he said, gentlemen, I'm sorry, this is not Troy. And they said, come on, what is this? And he said, this is Alexandros Troy, which is another place. And this has nothing to do with the original Troy. And he showed examples why this is Alexandros Troy. He said, this is 3rd century BC. Let me show you where actually the real Troy is. And he showed for the first time where Troy is. He was talking about laser when there was no electricity. He was an outstanding person. You should know this much more better than I do, but he is really one of the outstanding personalities of the Enlightenment period. He is really an astonishing person, and I have great respect for this gentleman. So that was a contribution. So we made a book presentation together.
Hvala vam na tome, jer evo, i nadam se da će ova emisija malo pomoći zapravo ne populariziranju te knjige, nego eto, objavljivanju onih stvari koje bi se zapravo trebali znati i koje bi trebali biti dio općeg znanja i opće kulture svakog Hrvata barem, ako ne svakog Evropljanina, pa hvala na tome. Ali, nije to jedino. Ono što ste vi također pripremili, puno je naših Hrvata putovala, pogotovo iz Dubrovnika. Tim putem, ali ovo su carigradska pisma Antuna Vrančića. Evo, opet ću polako to dići, pa da se vidi i to dijelo. Recite mi, kako ste dospjeli pak do tih pisama i što je njihova posebnost?
Okay, I was visiting the Pirvić Island, okay? And then they said there is this museum of Faust Vrančić, so I was looking at Faust Vrančić, and there was a brochure in Croatian. At the end, there was a summary of Faust Vrančić, and in English it wrote about Antun Vrančić, his uncle, letters from Constantinople. And then I went to Šibenik and asked, where are these letters? Because I had good relations over there. And they said, we don't have it in Šibenik. Then I came to Zagreb. It was not available. And long story, to make it short, it ended that I found them in a library in Budapest. And I thought he wrote in Croatian because he was an ambassador, Croat, under Habsburgs, okay. But it was in Latin. Not only that, everything was written in chiffre because he thought that all the letters he was sending was going to be read anyway. So we had to solve the chiffre and then translate from Latin into Croatian and from Croatian to English. And it's very interesting. For the first time we did that. And it, of course, attracted the interest of the Hazu peoples.
Moram vas nešto pitati. Vi to radite sami? Ili ste imali nekoga ko je to napravio za vas? Jer meni je fascinantna ova vaša znatiželja. Otišao sam u Budimpeštu i pronašao dakle, ta pisma i korespondenciju. Svi naši, dakle, kunski historičari i ini se nisu potrudili oko toga, nego ste to vi morali napraviti.
The initiative was mine, but of course Zrinka Blezević and Marijana Borić and Anđelko Velesić, I mean, these are all professors from High Academy of Arts and Sciences, from Zagreb University. They contributed, of course, I mean, translating these things, but the idea was mine. I mean, to be able to find these documents in Budapest was a miracle. By chance we did it. But, I mean, anybody who will read that Faust Vrancic, Antun Vrancic, letters from Constantinople. We would like to see, I mean, where are these letters? I mean, would like to read it because it is, he met Süleyman the Magnificent, Veličanstveni, face to face. He was one of these very few, not Rustam, but directly addressing to him. He was an outstanding person. He was with Pope, he was with Henry VIII, person to person. He was one of the outstanding personalities of that time.
Prije sam spomenuo Pini Reisa, dakle njega se ipak ovdje zna, ako ni zbog čega drugoga, znate, postoji cijela ta fama o kartama koje naravno posjedujete i koje jako lijepo bilježe američku obalu i tako dalje. Zbog toga je postao i u pop kulturi kult i tako dalje, tako dalje. Kako ste došli do doticaja s tim kartama i koja je sudbina toga? Jer je i naravno i s time ste se pozabavili.
Yeah. My wife, as you may know, she's a museologist and she's more or less in similar education you have had. And she's doing fantastic museums in Croatia with EU funds. And one of her friends was a manager in Rijeka with the Naval Museum over there. And this lady asked me, it is the 500th year of the Piri Reis map. Would you be interested to make an exhibition of it together with us? And I said, okay. I mean, I am the president of the Underwater Archaeology Foundation, but okay, this is linked with the seas. Okay, we will do it. So we had the first Piri Reis exhibition in Rijeka, and then it went to Poreč, Dubrovnik, the 5 other cities, Zagreb, and it was a good success. And in the meantime, on the televisions, it was Süleyman Veličanstveni, so everybody was interested seeing the Piri Reis map. The map itself was found by a miracle again in Topkapı Palace. Late in the 1950s, by coincidence, it was 1/4 of the original map and made on leather. And I live very close to Chios Island, the Greek Chios Island. That was a place where most of these map makers were gathering, including Christopher Columbus. So he was most probably exchanging maps and things like that on Chios Island. That's the source. So that's how he has this map of Americas, which is exactly when you take a satellite photograph, exactly what he did 500 years ago. It has still a lot of unknown features, of course.
Kad govorimo o ovim izložbama koje priređujete, jedna zanimljivost i opet ova filantropska crta u vama, imate razne zbirke, kolekcionar ste. I to jedna vama najdražih, molim vas, ispričat ćete nešto posebno o tome, dakle, neću se sad otkrivati, ali ono što je meni presudno kazati sad u ovom navratu jest da sve te zbirke dijelite s javnošću i smatrate da imate zbirku, a ne pokazati je javnosti, ne dijeliti je se ljudima, je besmislica. Opet hvala na tome, ali otkud vam taj stav? Drugi ljubomorno čuvaju, znate, umjetnine, ne vole da se zna da ih imaju.
Well, first of all, the thing is, život je kratak. That's a very important thing, and you have to know this, and you have to be contributing to the society as much as possible, to leave some steps behind. And also these collections should be shared with the community. We have to share those. And in the end, they have to be given to the right address. That's my philosophy. I mean, that has to be for the next coming generations, not to keep a hold of it, because it's unique. I mean, my commemorative handkerchief, silk handkerchief collection.
Na to sam i mislio. Možete malo objasniti našim gledateljima što su te komemorativne maramice?
Yeah, big empires, like Ottoman Empire, or England.
Da, Francuzi su ih radili, da, Englezi.
Yeah, of course. Big empires always had on certain occasions printing these things. It can be the anniversary of, let's say, the Queen in the Rhine, 50th anniversary, or winning a war, or end of a war, First World War, or Napoleon's lost in Russia. Russians also did these big handkerchiefs on their wars. So I happened to see one of them back in 1975. I bought it and I understood that this is a tradition. This was also a tradition in the Ottoman Empire. And I started collecting internationally. And then people just were calling, do you happen to be interested in one, which I have? And so that became a big collection of 160 units. And you may have heard that the biggest company in Turkey, a corporate company, is Koç Group. So they have the Sadberg Museum, which is real corporate. I truly believe in them. So I donated this collection because to keep silk is very sensitive. Silk goes like that, you know, and light effects. So I gave the whole collection to them. I have, and now this book, another book of my collection is being printed. That will be ready next month. So it will be forever over there, and it will be in good hands. Because I cannot keep them in good way. 150 of them. Where do you keep them? Humidity, sunshine. I mean, it is affected by everything.
Ja se sinovi bune, tata ostavi ipak nešto u kući. Šalim se, dobro.
Well, they want to earn more money than I did, so they are totally interested in other things.
Ali vjerojatno doći će oni u 50.
Hopefully.
Ovo je onako masterpiece, naprosto moramo posebno predstaviti, dakle, to dijelo. Evo, o čemu je riječ, da ja ne improviziram.
Homeros is born in Smyrna. That's where I come from, Izmir. And the first book, which I will also give you, is Homeric Troy. Homer is very well known in this part of the world. Homer is not very well known in our part of the world. We would like to highlight it, because if you don't highlight it, Greek friends started saying Homer's mother was actually pregnant when he was in Chios. She was in Chios and gave a birth in Smyrna, so he should be considered Greek. But at that time there was no Greece, there was no colonization at the period when Homer was born in Smyrna. So one thing we did good is in the book of Homeric Troy, I added for the first time Roger Bošković as part of the ones who is really involved directly for knowing the place of Troy. So that was a good occasion for Roger Bošković to appear. And this one is mainly on the experience and knowledge we have about Homer dealing with Smyrna. So we wanted to gather it. And this book has been given to all the European parliamentary members at the end of during the Christmas time, because they have elected Smyrna as one of the outstanding cities of Europe.
Vratimo se malo na ove hrvatsko-turske relacije. Kad govorimo, završit ćemo sa poslom, ali ostavimo u ovim ljepšim, dakle, još ovoga sferama. Kad govorimo o tom kulturnom nasljeđu, ja sam spomenuo, dakle, i poeziju, da ne opterećujemo sad posebnim nazivima našu publiku, koja je to, dio toga smo, dakle, podijelili od poezije preko arhitekture i pojedinog, dakle, ovoga sloga u arhitekturi. Imamo, eto, primjera od te mostogradnje pa do kontakata u diplomaciji koji su živi i stalni i tako dalje, tako dalje. Kako to da mi i dan danas govorimo ipak o Turskoj sa neke distance, umjesto da je smatramo integralnim dijelom ovog kulturnog civilizacijskog prostora, što ono na svaki način jest?
Well, I think there should be more communication, more exchange of culture. Initially, when I came first to Croatia, I wanted to have this Gnalić exhibition in Turkey. We made a lot of programs, but it didn't work out. But then there was this other opportunity where they have found the Iznik ceramics. And they were here in Zagreb in the restoration. So we made one exhibition in Mimara, and the next one was going to take place in Istanbul, but then the ambassadors changed and we couldn't do that. This kind of intersecting exhibitions and things which I'm doing should be more and more For example, there was an opportunity for me to meet Mirko Ilić, another Croatian, which I know, a very good friend of mine. He asked whether I would be interested in one of his exhibitions. And I was very glad to not only meet him, but also to have his exhibitions.
Sa Mirkom, on je genije, on je naprosto fenomenalan.
Yeah, he is. He wanted to have his tolerance exhibitions in Turkey. We did it in 3 different places, Istanbul, Antalya, and Izmir. And he was very happy.
Bravo.
And Mirko Ilić is very well known nowadays. He is very well, and then he was invited to Istanbul, and then, for example, Miljenko Benges, when he came to Izmir, we had this exhibition. I sponsored the whole thing. I mean, we should be more working on these things. I want you to know something which may be of interest to you, and that is dealing with the map maker 100 years ago. Pervitic was working in Istanbul doing the maps, okay?
Da.
And he was very well known doing all these maps of Istanbul, different districts. I found 1 month ago, together with a colleague of mine, that he also made the maps of Izmir. Only 1 copy. So we are now going to publish it and then bring the exhibition to Croatia, to Zagreb and elsewhere maybe, and to make this exhibition also in Izmir. You know, somebody has to work on these things. Otherwise, I mean, nobody is going to do
Dobro je da imamo vas tu ko promotora. Na par minuta smo do kraja emisije i najlogičnije pitanje, naravno, koje je bio svako pitao emisiji, budući da ste poslovni čovjek, a dobro, a što je sa tom poslovnom suradnjom? Mislim, naprosto Turska je takova ogromna zemlja i toliko produktivna da je za očekivati da ta razmjena bude kudikamo veća. Gdje investicija, recimo, zapinju?
When I came, I just also wanted to contribute, bringing some big major holding companies here. There was this Marinas, which was in the critical list. Then they said we will privatize the Marinas because Croatia just happens to be the only country having state marinas. And I brought #1 company in Turkey, the biggest, for talking about this. I'm the go-between. I'm not interested whether they do the business or do not, just introducing. And it didn't work out. And then there was this opportunity of this arms factory where a Turkish company could not export their arms around the world because they have the English license, so they were really looking for another partner, and that was for sale. It didn't work out again. And there was a private company in petroleum and gas, which was subject for sale, and I brought again the biggest company, and it didn't work. So 1, 2, 3, 3 is enough. I mean, because when you do certain things with no expectation, where nobody believes, I mean, I can make 1, 2, 3, okay, but not more. I'm not trying to bigger my business or looking for opportunities here. I tried my chance. It didn't work, but there are quite a good number of big companies. For example, everybody knows the Chinese doing the bridge. But the biggest investment, the biggest one is Cengiz Holding doing the railways in Croatia. It's much more bigger project which is taking place. Nobody knows again. Cengiz Holding is doing this railways in the northeast. So there are quite a good number of Turkish companies. We are very good in, let's say, construction, actually. There are some small companies already here in function. And I think they can be more operative here in this country. There are a lot of difficulties, bureaucratic difficulties. I mean,
Administracija.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it. Bureaucratic problems.
Uvijek jeste, ali znate, mi smo iz Srednje Evrope, pa odatle i Kafka, tako da mi je sve jasno. Hvala vam lijepo na vašem vremenu, hvala što ste bili moj gost, zaista sam simpatičan sugovornik i hvala na svim ovim stvarima koje ste napravili i za Hrvatsku, jer evo nama otkrivate našu vlastitu kulturnu i opću povijest, tako da zaista po 3. put zahvaljujem.
It's my culture as well.
Naravno, ali
Thank you.
ja vam moram evo zahvaliti naročito kao netko ko je Hrvat, ali nije Turčin za sad još, ali kako ste krenuli u ovom animiranju, možda uzme mi to doživljastvo. Hvala vam lijepo.
Thank you. Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Hvala lijepo, dragi gledatelji, što ste bili sa nama. Gledajte nas i sljedećega utorka. Do tada, doviđenja.